3, 2, what the f is up, everybody? Welcome to Sir Hunts. My name's Mark, and in this video, we're going to be breaking down House of the Dragon, episode 7. Before I jump into any of that, shout out to everybody that's in the chat right now. Let me do a proper shout out to everybody that's typing in the chat. There may be people that aren't actually typing, and I can't see your name if that's the case. But how's everybody doing? Let's see, we got 30 people watching us, and we just fucking started. That's dope. Participants. Well, I want to let me see participants in the chat. That's weird. All right, let me pull it up on YouTube. How's the audio? Can you guys hear me good? The episode was way shorter tonight, so I was able to start earlier. Almost 20 minutes earlier. So that's pretty cool. All right. Cool. All right, shout out to Angel Valise, Breanne Johnson, what's up, girl? Cat Shepard, Chris Carr, Dawn Marie, Georgie, Gonzalo Echevarria, Killer Boy, 808, Kelsey, Lagartha of Saxo, Liz Viola, It 1013, Matt Bingham, Matthew Buffington, Nadia, Sylvester, One and Only B, Rick, Ruth Ellen, Weirn, Sihi, Stant Den, Summer LA, Supixo, Terrence Pounds, Twitchy Train 99, and Zeus Bimnet. What is up, all of y'all awesome people? Thank you for joining me so quickly. That's dope. Really close to 100,000. So please, if you're watching this live and if you're watching this afterwards, subscribe. We're almost at 100,000 here on YouTube. And if you'll notice just over my shoulder, that's the silver play button. So when I ask you to do that, it's not like to just let me get that silver play button and the 100,000 thing here on YouTube. I already hit that. I lost all those subscribers. I don't know what the fuck happened. I think it's part of this something that I've been, mentioning so much in my videos is part of a shadow ban, right? So long story short, my videos don't show up in their algorithm. So once I hit 100,000 and it's working, so I'm not going to stop mentioning it, right? Basically that will be over. My videos will show up in the algorithm. I know there's like a million people who make way better videos than me here on YouTube. But if I've been making content consistently for 2 years before the show even had a cast announced, my videos should show up at some point in the ranking system, and they fucking don't. So, shadow ban, active. This guy, once I reach 100,000, hopefully it ends. It's starting to end, right? I'm like, 400 subs away from 100,000, so that's fucking dope. All right, long story short, let's jump into the actual, discussion. Let's see. I'll run through my notes, and then I want to talk about the episode 8 teaser, because we got the full grown boys, and like all the cast members that we see from this point forward are going to be the cast members for the rest of the series. All right, so we start out with Laena's funeral, right? One thing that I thought was kind of weird was Daemon laughing. Like, I get it that Vaemon kind of said a joke. He said her blood runs thick, and like, thick is like an old-time insult for someone being stupid, right? You're thick in the head. You're dumb, right? So maybe that's why he laughed, but I guess it was more like a hysterical laugh. Like when he's asked if they were happy by Rhaenyra, right? Him and Laena, he says, "We were happy enough." I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's like no complaints. I mean, no, it is kind of a complaint. It's like, what's with the inconsistencies in his character is he's supposed to be an agent of chaos. And I think the main point of like having him flip-flop and switch around so much is that when his backstory is finally revealed and we get his motivation, it's going to be like a quintessential point for his character. And for right now, he kind of is, it seems like he's lost. He doesn't really know kind of what he wants or what he's supposed to do, right? And he lost his wife. Rhaenyra proposed to him, so it's like she's wearing the pants right now. But like, you gotta understand, Daemon in the books, Daemon, when you compare him to Rhaenyra, right, has a massive age advance, like advantage, right? Meaning that he knows a bunch of shit. He's seen the world. He's been places. He's done things. He does lose his wife, right, in childbirth, but it just, I don't know. you all help me out in the chat. What is going on with Daemon's character? It's like it's like, yeah, Agent of Chaos. Yeah, okay, but like also he's also a wizened battle commander. He also is the quintessential most pivotal player on the Blacks. If it wasn't for him, they would have lost immediately. What I've seen from him tonight is kind of like I don't know. This is a show. It's an adaptation of a book. So the Daemon that I know from Fire and Blood and the Daemon that I know from the Rogue Prince is not necessarily the Daemon I saw in this episode. The episode wasn't bad. It was fucking awesome. This episode was better than the last episode. The characters fully came into their own. I enjoyed how fucking batshit Alicent is. Holy crap. Like, I'll talk about that in a second. Let's go back to Daemon. Daemon is not one to be pinned down. And that's actually kind of frustrating to me because I expected to see this version of this character. And I saw him at first. I saw him like crazy in the Battle at the Stepstones, right? In the King of the Narrow Sea, right? We saw Daemon, right? Those 2 episodes. That was who I kind of imagined. And then also, through the process of adaptation, figured we would get, right? And then we get this guy who's kind of laughing at his wife's funeral and like saying like, yeah, she wanted to go back home, but like, yeah, but like, I'm happy over here. Like, and then like the king. Okay, so this adds some context, right? When the king comes and talks to him and he says, brother, speaking of which, is he going senile? He called Alicent Emma. What the fuck? And she just ignored it. Also, Alicent, suck a dick because you cannot do what you did and walk away. What the that actually is a writing choice. And I don't know why they're doing that. That actually is a genuine complaint. It's a real complaint with the show. You cannot do what the fuck Alicent did. You can't do that. You can't cut the princess of Dragonstone. It doesn't matter if your son lost tonight. You can't do that. What? All right, man. You can't do that. That doesn't happen in Fire and Blood. That doesn't happen in Fire. You can't do that. And that's probably why it doesn't happen in Fire and Blood. You can't do that. Alicent, you bitch. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so adding some context to Daemon, right? Daemon, when Viserys walks up to him and says, come back to court, right? You would expect that's what Daemon wants. But it's not. Daemon wants to make his own way. And he's still butthurt from when the king named Rhaenyra his heir. So when you realize that kind of makes, I guess, more sense. So any interaction or anything, like, remember when he beat the shit out of the messenger? They said, hey, the king's coming to help you. Bro's coming down here. He's going to give you an army. In the books, Viserys was already doing that. He was funding the wars the entire time. But in the TV show, he gets the letter and he's like, yo, I don't want your help, brother. Let me beat the crap out of this guy because he's the nearest thing to me and he's going to be the object of my anger, right? And then the same sort of thing happened tonight with Viserys and Daemon. And he's like, look, come back to court. I know you just lost your wife. You're grown now. You're a father, right? Come back to court. Daemon just walks away, right? He's like, no, I'm going to go fuck your daughter. Yeah, that makes more sense, right? When you realize that Daemon is tired of his brother trying to give him hand-me-outs. Like at one point in the first couple of episodes before Daemon was removed as the king's heir, right before the king established to everyone, Rhaenyra's my heir, right? He would have gladly taken help in conquering the Stepstones with his brother's help. And, if he was exiled, he would have came back to court, right? That kind of, I guess, makes more sense. The thing is like, these weeks in between the week in between each episode is amazing, right? It gives you time to think and theorize and, for me, make videos and stuff. But it also kind of leaves you with questions that you kind of have to wait an entire week to answer. And I think Daemon's arc this season is it's all over the place. I'm gonna be honest. Like that's like he's a rogue prince. He's supposed to go against the grain and not do what everybody tells him. But it's also like I can't. You know what? I'll save whatever else I have to say about Daemon from a breakdown video. I'll have more time to think about it, and I'll probably be able to give people watching more than just half broken thoughts and analyses. Alicent, you can't do that. You literally can't do that. The one thing you could argue, right? And here's me defending the show's writing and stuff. Obviously, that's a genuine complaint. That should not happen. She shouldn't have been able. She should have been thrown in a cell or something, or somebody should have grabbed her or something. You can't just cut the princess. Like, dude, you can't do that. You can't. She's not just a princess neither. She's next in line for the Iron Throne. It all goes to say, right? The logic in Viserys' court is that the king is a bitch. We can act out of character. Aegon can say, Father, we all know it. Just look at them, right? Everybody can do these things because Viserys is such a bitch ass. So I guess when you look at it from that perspective, the queen, who's also, from the second most richest house in the land and one of the most powerful right now, right? You could argue that, yes, she would certainly be able to at least question the king, the queen. The king's choices in one of at least ask for some sort of punishment for the princess, right? But you can't cut her yourself. As soon as she grabbed the king's dagger, I was like, okay, I knew this scene was coming, but it's also like, what the fuck? What are you doing right now? Right? Yeah, I don't know. It was crazy. What threw me off from the start of this episode is the tension and how palpable it was at the funeral, right? At Lena's funeral, all these different scandals are going on. Everybody is looking at each other like, man, I'll kill you if there weren't people watching right now. Like the the tension in the air could literally be cut with a knife, right? And I hadn't watched an episode of a show like that in a long time. So that had my whole mental space thrown off, right? Like, this is one of the final episodes before the war actually starts. So, of course, this kind of energy will be in the atmosphere. And, like, the next episode is a smaller time jump. We're replacing the kid actors with the older young adult actors who are going to be playing the characters for the rest of the season or for the rest of the series. So it kind of felt like an episode that was used to get from one point to another, right? And there were certainly a lot of things that were added in that did not happen in the books, and the writers chose to add those things in to get us from point A to point B, which is that Rhaenyra had to get married this episode, Laenor had to die, right? And the enmity between the queen and the princess has to be further established. Those were the main points of the episode, right? So then the writers added in certain things, like we got Aemond beating the crap out of everybody. He beat the crap out of all the kids. Now, how that actually happens in the books is Joffrey's not a baby. Joffrey goes out, so they're at Lena's funeral, right? They're at Driftmark, right? Well, I guess they were at High Tide. They were at Driftmark. Yeah, they were. No, they were at High Tide. Because the High Tide, the Driftwood throne was there, and we saw that was at High Tide. So why was the episode called Driftmark? Driftmark is a castle that's around the way. It gets flooded all the time. It's dank and dreary. Maybe the funeral took place at Driftmark, and when they flash back to Corlys and Rhaenys, they didn't necessarily say it, but that was High Tide. It's actually kind of sad. Aemond's arc, right? So, do I want to start talking about that yet? Yes, we will. Let's talk about Aemond. All right, so Aemond claiming Vhagar. I love that fucking scene. I literally stood up in my chair and was like, this is the dragon show. Like, everything about it. She literally, like, okay, so obviously we all know what happened. Aemond walks up and, like, he sneaks up, rather, grabs the saddle, the reins that are all a part of Vhagar's saddle, because Vhagar's so massive, they basically use, like, these netting and these ropes to just make the saddle big enough to fit over Vhagar. And also the rider has to be able to climb up, right? So Aemond goes to reach out, and Vhagar's like, eyes open immediately, got that Godzilla effect, right? And then you realize that Aemond is not showing, like, he's fearful, right? But he's like, no, I'm gonna do this. And if I die in the process, okay, right? That's kind of the vibes that I got from him. Then he mounts the dragon, and we see my favorite scene from the show so far. That is my new, well, aside from Daemon killing everybody down in the Stepstones. Like, literally when he commits a war crime. That's my other favorite scene. But that was pretty awesome. Everybody in the chat, let me know. Is Vhagar as big as you thought? I watched it on my monitor. I've mentioned before, the TV that I have downstairs actually looks better. And even though I watched it on my monitor, it still looked that good. Like, my monitor whitewashes stuff. There's, like, settings on it from when I play video games. So when I watch TV shows, it doesn't quite look as good. And I don't feel like fucking with the settings to make my video games, whenever I do play them, look shitty, right? But I was blown away by that scene. If I if I wanted to switch to the greens, it would have been in those moments. Like, and then he comes back and he's a douche to, Jacaerys and the Dragon Twins and Lucerys. But before that, you kind of feel bad for him because he's being bullied. And also, yeah, like, he's getting back at them. He took it to a whole nother level. He's like, I don't give a shit. I'll punch a girl. I'll punch a girl twice. This is a little bit too much, right? But yeah, I don't know. Aemon's like, hey, and then he says the line in the trailer for the next episode, nephews, like, what's up? Did you see how badass I was when I was just fighting? That's going to be your face. Oh, man, props to Aegon as well. He got drunk as shit. Y'all think he hooked up with that handmaiden who he kept, harassing for more wine? When Sir Otto picks him up when he's drunk and passed out, it's pretty funny. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Dude, get it together. Another thing that was kind of out of character a little bit, but I guess Sir Otto's showing his true intentions, since Alicent is an adult now. He can kind of have, like, an adult conversation with her. I thought for sure he was going to be like, yo, you messed up. You played the enemy too hard right now. You need to reel it back a bit. And then I thought he would deliver her some lessons in literature, right? Where he gives her a really long speech. No, he said, oh, good job. You did great. Good job, babe. You took it way further than I would have thought. Nah, I know you got the stuff in you. Like, that was like I said, unexpected in his character. But now that, Alicent is older and she's an adult, he realizes, okay, she can handle this kind of information. No, this is a game. In our house, the only way to win is to live, right? If you die, like, when you play the Game of Thrones, you either die or you win. Cersei tells Ned this, right? Ned doesn't take her advice and he dies. So does Cersei. But yeah, when you play the Game of Thrones, you either win or you die. So this is what Sir Otto is telling his daughter. Daemon and Rhaenyra. That was, well, I mean, it was obviously expected. We saw the Valyrian wedding was a thing. We saw that in, like, one of the first trailers. The amount of blood that was exchanged. It's really cool how they cut each other's lips and stuff with dragon glass. That's, if you're unaware, that's obsidian, right? In Westeros, that's dragon poop. It's literally like dragons take shits and it's really hot and it fossilizes into. No, I'm just kidding. It's frozen fire is what the wildlings called it. But it's volcanic glass. It's like harnessing the power of fire into. We all know what dragon glass is. It kills the White Walkers in the wilds. But yeah, that was cool. It is kind of sad that like, I know how their journey is going to end, and, like, yeah, they will be happy for a time, but ultimately when the war starts, they're going to be driven apart, and that's going to make it more tragic. And I wonder if, since they showed us the wedding and showed what appears to be Rhaenyra being very much in love with her uncle Daemon, right? And Daemon being like, I was too, but also you're a child, right? I wonder if they'll continue that theme, because, like I said, once the war starts and Daemon posts up at Harrenhal, that's not, like, she kind of has the same attitude that she has with Rhaenyra. Like, she kind of has that same attitude with Daemon. Like, she just lets Daemon do his thing and she does her thing, right? She starts eating a bunch. She gets really big. But yeah, so if I had to rate this episode 1 to 10, because I know it sounds like I'm being negative, but that's just because I'm always so positive. But that's just because this episode was crazy. And it actually was shorter. So I was able to live stream faster, but I probably should have watched it again before doing this live stream, because that would have really helped me with processing some of the choices to add stuff in and then also to change stuff from canon. Let's talk about Rhaenyra's death. What is that? Like, he still has to die, okay? Because that's like it's a ripple effect, and it's very dangerous to play around with changing canon that drastically this early. So Daemon kind of makes you think, like, at least for me, it made me think like, yeah, we'll fake his death. You'll get to escape with him, but, you know, I'll give you a bunch of gold if you get rid of him, right? So the main reason why I say he has to die is because his dragon Sea Smoke is ridden by this dude, Adam of Hull, right? Adam of Hull is a dragon seed who's called into action along with his brother, Alon, who later becomes Alon Oakenfist. But Adam and Alon are bastards of Rhaenyra, which we know Rhaenyra's gay. So these bastards that will be showing up probably halfway through season 2 are not actually his. They're actually Corlys's. And the reason why Corlys brings them forward from their mother, Marilda of Hull, Spicetown and Hull are these two towns that are on the Isle of Driftmark that popped up because the Velaryons are very rich and they lined their pockets of the trade between Essos and Westeros for years, for hundreds of years, before the Targaryens came over and established themselves on Dragonstone. So, what the fuck was I just saying? Oh yeah. So Marilda of Hull is a shipping yard. That's where we saw Daemon meet Carl Corey at. Speaking of which, that's what I was getting at. Daemon made it seem like he still wants Carl to do the deed, but like later down the line, I guess. I don't know. He kind of also looked like he was about to make out with him there for a second. I was supposed to say, yo, is Daemon gay? That's interesting. That's definitely didn't happen in the books. So I don't know. He like Adam of Hull rides Sea Smoke, and like when he rides Sea Smoke, his loyalty is questioned, right? So Rhaenyra is scorned by a couple of other of the dragon seeds, Ulf the White and Hugh the Hammer. They turn cloak in the middle of a battle. So Rhaenyra is like, fuck, it's only a matter of time before the rest of these bastard dragon seeds, and if you're unaware, dragon seeds are anybody with Targaryen blood, so that they can ride a dragon. Because remember, the Velaryons do not ride dragons. So any of these dragon seeds have to be offspring from all of the Targaryens, right? So Ulf the White and Hugh the Hammer are these two dragon seeds that claim a dragon. They turn cloak, and like I said, Rhaenyra gets worried that a lot of the other bastards and dragon seeds may do the same thing. So she tries to get rid of Nettles, and she tries to get rid of Adam of Hull. Adam of Hull is tipped off by Corlys Velaryon. His grandfather was actually probably his dad. That's the other thing too. Like, they're supposed to be Rhaenyra's bastards, but Rhaenyra has Targaryen blood through his mother, right? So you could argue that they kind of are, but then you could also argue that maybe they got Targaryen blood from Marilda of Hull, and they are Velaryon's children, Corlys rather. Like in the books, House Velaryon is intermingled with House Targaryen for a long time. So they have dragon riding blood in their family now. So that's why it's probably possible that Corlys Velaryon actually sired Adam and Alon, and they still ride dragons, right? Because Rhaenys is not their mother. Marilda of Hull is their mother. So it's like, right? But Rhaenyra's gay. So anyway, Adam of Hull rides Sea Smoke, and he ends up, being questioned and, or rather, tipped off by Corlys. So he runs off and actually does something extremely good for the Blacks, and he ends up having Loyal inscribed on his tomb, and it's this really tragic story. But all that is besides the point. He has to ride Sea Smoke, and Sea Smoke's previous rider has to die in order for that to happen. So if Rhaenyra is somehow going to survive, he can survive up until the point where Adam of Hull will ride Sea Smoke. it's obvious why they chose to change the canon. But like George killed a gay dude. In the TV show, they made that same gay dude a black guy. So you can't kill a black gay dude in the same episode after you just killed his sister, a black woman, the last episode last week. So that's why they changed the writing. Also, they probably wanted to score some brownie points with like having something change from canon, but then having it pay off later. So maybe Laenor's death per se, or Laenor's fake out death, will pay off later, and it'll be something way better than anything that happened in the books. That's possible. I've always said that for the longest, and I need to remind myself because, excuse me, I am a little bit mad that they changed stuff from canon, right? But then also, they know the version of this story, and I'm talking about Ryan Condal, the heart of this, right? Him and George, George picked him, and he's like the main writer. The benefit of them knowing the story is that they could change things that maybe they didn't like or that weren't as well received by the reader. So they have that opportunity to be like, you know what, let's change Laenor's death a little bit. Let's have him have a little bit more meaning behind his character and make him a little bit more three-dimensional than this this guy who's the son of Corlys, who rides a dragon but ultimately dies and is killed in a duel because he's a whore and he has a problem with picking favorites. And literally that's what it is in the book. So that's kind of simple. It's like Carl Corey gets jealous because Laenor gets a new favorite, and then he kills Laenor in a duel. And then you add in afterwards the subcontext when you read that, oh, Daemon potentially could have done it because he wanted to open Rhaenyra up for marriage, and the only way to do that is by removing Laenor, who's obviously, his rival. And then he actually did do that right before, right when he married Laenor's sister Laena. He removed the son of a Sea Lord of Braavos, who was betrothed to Laena, right? So Daemon kind of did the same thing. He like dueled the guy and killed him outright. He insulted him to the point where the guy, the son of the Sea Lord of Braavos, had to fight him because you can't be insulted but so many times without actually dueling someone. So that's what Daemon did in the book, and Daemon killed that dude. So that could be why Ryan decided to change this from the books. Is like, oh, well, Daemon kind of, he does that twice. You know what I mean? So maybe they wanted to add a little bit more to him. Holy shit, we have 354 comments. Let me jump in the chat. Shout out to everybody that's in the chat right now. Holy shit, I missed a bunch of comments. Oh shit, missed a super chat too. Thank you for that. North must remember, my buddy. Emma was top of mind. If you know, you know. Oh, yeah. when he called her that. Or he could genuinely be going senile. Maybe he just, because then he looked at her and was like, fuck it, I'm not going to correct it. She knows her name. But you know what's funny? The same thing happened to Alicent in the books. Alicent was mistakenly called Sarah by the old King Jaehaerys because he thought that Alicent resembled her, and he was also going senile. So maybe Viserys has got like early onset dementia too. Like I mean, obviously Emma is on his mind. He was just, Rhaenyra looks so much like her. It's like that could be why. But I think it's just a hint and further that he's like he's going mad. That would be more fun in my opinion, because then it's not just like one thing that kills him. It's like a wreck of a bunch of different things. YG Knight says only the king and the queen can hit or command the heir to the throne, so it's not that bad. No. What the hell are you talking about? No, buddy. No, you can't strike a prince of the king could, yes. The queen certainly can't. Certainly. Here's why. She's not even a queen. She's a queen consort. The queen is Emma Arryn. Emma of House Arryn, who's a Targaryen. Look at her hair. She's a Targaryen on her mother's side, but she's an Arryn on her father's side, so she has the Arryn last name. But she's the queen. She's who the king married. So anybody who he marries after that is not the queen. They're the queen consort or the dowager queen or all these other different titles that come before that. But you certainly cannot threaten the princess of Dragonstone. That's the next in line for the Iron Throne. You can't do that. I don't give a. You can't do that. You can't. That's not. I'm sorry, but no. it's still the first season. She's going to get worse. Hell yes. Like I'm genuinely curious and mad about that. Like you can't do that. She should have had a consequence. Somebody should have smacked this knife out of her hand and hurt her or something. Like you can't just cut the princess. First off, Rhaenyra didn't have anything to do with your son losing his eye. She had nothing to do with that except for lack of parenting, right? She wasn't paying attention to her kids. You can't do that. I'm sorry. You can't do that. That is crazy. You can't draw blood. And then like she took the king's weapon. It's so disrespectful. Like you took his knife and Rhaenyra knew like this knife has a prophecy on it. And you drew my blood with it. Bitch. Like, oh man. No, I think they're gonna still kill Laenor. Or like maybe he has to die. They could switch the dragon. That'd be the only way to do it. Like, is he just gonna leave his dragon? Like, I mean, obviously, if anybody sees him with a dragon, they're gonna be like, "Oh, hey, look, there's Corlys. He's over here. He's not even dead. He's not even burned in the fireplace." Are they gonna have one of the dragon twins ride Sea Smoke? It's like I said, it's like one of those things where, like, when you change the knife thing, whatever, right? I'm mad about that because it didn't happen in the books. The Laenor thing is kind of more serious because it's a ripple effect. What happens with Adam of Holt? What happens with Alan Oakenfist? What happens with that whole storyline of them supposedly being Laenor's bastards and riding, Adam riding Laenor's dragon, which kind of legitimizes the fact that he is Laenor's son. Like some people think that, oh yeah, well, he's riding his dad's dragon, right? But we all know they're Corlys's bastards. So it creates a ripple effect. He has to. I mean, unless nobody else rides his dragon and they just eliminate Sea Smoke, which would be really silly because Sea Smoke looks awesome, right? If they completely eliminate his dragon, we just see it off in the background or something. Maybe. Oh, speaking of off in the background, we saw Sunfire. That was dope. And we got to see in comparison with I was about to say Rhaegal, but we know Syrax. We got to see the color difference, which is amazing. It's amazing. That's really dope because I actually just saw a comment on one of my videos saying, like, right before the episode started, like, oh, I wonder if we'll get to see Sunfire. We got to see Sunfire. I'm gonna go back and replay it because there was two different times we saw Sunfire. When they first arrived and we saw all the dragons sitting on the excuse me, on the ledge with Vhagar, right? And then when Syrax lands, and then also when they were taking off, when the Greens left, we saw Sunfire flying with Vhagar. It's almost like Aemond gained his confidence. Like the bullied becomes the bullier, and it's always 20 times worse when someone who's been bullied does it, because it's kind of like they feel like they're getting back at being bullied by whoever it was, and then also they like that feeling, so they do it even more. So it's like Aemond's a badass. I will say that. BioExplorer says, Georgie, I hate Alicent, Cole, and Otto all more than I hate Cersei. Oh, so you're responding to someone else. Yeah, I don't like them either, but hate is a very strong word. I feel like the writers, aside from this is my first complaint in 7 episodes. Fans are allowed to have complaints, especially, you know what I mean? But I feel like the writers are so good, they probably will do something before the season's out to humanize Alicent because she's been so hated on. Like Emily Carey did such a good job with the role that I found it. I was like, it's going to be impossible for me to hate this character. She's on the green. It's going to be impossible for me to hate Alicent. There's no way. And then they did the switch, and then immediately I'm like, Alicent, who the fuck is this bitch? Who is this? Right. And that just shows you how good of an actress Olivia Cooke is. So because they've done that so much, I feel like, or because they've done such a good job, I feel like they're going to do something and have a scene that humanizes her. It's probably going to be the conversation that she has with Aegon 2 and trying to convince him. I was kind of right in the motivation behind, well, I'm sure anybody else who thought this too was right as well. But the motivation, the main reason why Alicent hates Rhaenyra so much is that she's had to sleep with this old dude who's literally fallen apart. And that's all Rhaenyra had to do too. And you hear Rhaenyra talking to Rhaenyra, and she's like, yeah, we tried a couple times. Yeah, but you didn't do it enough. You didn't do what she did, which is like, wait on this dude, right? Like, okay, he's the king. He's a Targaryen, whatever, right? But she was still forced to have to do that. She probably just wanted to keep reading her books and chilling out at court. Rhaenyra actually had an option, got to choose somewhat, right? And still didn't produce heirs of the like. Now, here's a question. What if she had married, not that would have happened, but what if she had married someone who would have given her kids black hair? Would this thing have even happened? Because we've seen before with Jon, right? And his dad being Rhaegar and his mom being Lyanna. Rhaegar obviously had hair that looked like Viserys and Daenerys and everybody else. We saw on the TV show, at least, and in the books as well, the Starks have that darker brown colored hair. So Jon ended up getting that colored hair. And like, also, if you kind of thought like how I did a little bit, Sir Harwin Strong looks like Jon Snow. He's supposed to. He's intentionally supposed to look like Jon Snow, and that's because he's the a similar mix of Jon, right? Well, not really, right? First Men blood runs strong, right? House Strong claims blood of the First Men. There's like very little written about them. I did see a theory from another YouTuber. I can't remember his name right now, but I did see a theory where he came up with, because an article like quoted it or misquoted it or some shit. Help me out in the chat, everybody. His name's like Joe Wizard or something, right? But he made a theory that said Larys is warging rats or something, right? I just read the headline from the article. That's actually possible. It sounds crazy and far-fetched, tinfoil caps for sure, but that's possible because House Strong, like I just said, they claim blood of the First Men. Anybody who has blood from the line of the First Men, right? They mated with the children of the forest in primordial times, before the Andals came over, before the Targaryens came over, before the Valyrian freehold was even founded, although there were dragons in the world, right? The First Men, okay, well, that's not true. Either way, the First Men mated with the children of the forest and gained their abilities in green seeing. They could communicate with animals, right? So we know that from Bran's POV in Game of Thrones and, you know, all the other books. He can warg into animals and control their body and mind. And also, Bran can warg into Hodor, which is something that you're not really supposed to do, right? But Bran does it anyway. And then you find out that, oh wait, these children of the Force people are still around. It's totally possible that Bran could fuck one of them, right? Okay, well, I don't know where I was going with that. I'm just reading the chat. Just like power reading, scanning comments. Look, I understand that we want favorite characters to live, but is it going to hurt the story? Right? Daenerys living wouldn't have hurt the story at all. It would have made it so much more awesome. But Rhaenyra not dying, I just explained why that's kind of important that he does. But like I said, also, this was unexpected. I did not think they were going to play the clue game, right? Like basically Daemon snapped the neck of a servant. The fight between Carl Corey and Rhaenyra looked rehearsed as shit, but that was intentional, right? But Daemon put the body of that guy away, and they put him in the fireplace and burned him. And then, you know, when Corlys and Rhaenys run out, they see this half dead, half charred corpse. But okay, so I did a video yesterday where a scene with Rhaenyra in a boat came out, right? So the actor John McMillan was spotted filming in a boat, in the boat that he escapes in, with a bald head, and it was with the actor who plays Carl Corey. And that was last summer. When that came out, everybody, myself included, were like, why the fuck does he not have hair? Something's weird about that. And then I was like, you know what? I bet you he fell off his dragon at sea, because that would be really funny, right? And then in this last video that I did, I was like, maybe he dies falling off his dragon, right? Because then I came up with this stupid idea, right? That he fights Carl Corey. Carl Corey nearly mortally wounds him and then escapes. Then Rhaenyra comes to, right? He passes out from the pain and is almost dead, right? Then he comes to, then he hops on sea smoke. Then he chases down Carl Corey and burns Carl Corey like in his escape or in his attempt to escape. And then Rhaenyra dies shortly thereafter. I thought that would be a badass way for him to go out. Like I said, he has to die because sea smoke is ridden by Adam of Hull. And you need that loyal Adam storyline. You could argue that there doesn't necessarily have to be an Alon for the show, because I don't think the Alon Oakenfist storyline and what he does later on for House Velaryon, right, that probably will never be shown on screen, because that's the regency of Aegon III, past the Hour of the Wolf, past the dance. So like, yeah, his character does show up in the dance, but really kind of, I mean, he plays a role towards the end, but ultimately when he tries to claim sea smoke, he's burned, right? So Adam of Hull does way more during the actual dance that's important to be shown on the screen, and he's riding sea smoke the entire time he's doing that. So it's like, interesting character, definitely not my favorite, definitely cool to see someone who looks like me on screen. That's fucking amazing. But it's like, is that worth having him live if it doesn't progress the storyline? That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. It wasn't as creepy as everyone would like to imply. Well, what are you talking about? Daniel Pizzini. That is, I'm assuming, a conversation that I'm not a part of. Sorry about that. Raela says, Aemond is Daemon's love child. Just put a D on the... I mean, you know, I not to pat myself on the back, but I came up with that theory. I'm sure other people have thought of it. I made a video on it. That I could safely say and not be like, oh, I did it first. Or it sound like I'm sucking my own dick and patting myself on the back. I hate doing that. I sound like a douche, right? But I made a theory video where I was like, hey, you know what? Daemon and Aemond are very similar. Very similar. And in the books, it's way more ominous because supposedly Alicent was sleeping with Viserys before Emma Arryn even died. That is not the case on the TV show. But that air of suspicion, and then also you realize that there's rumors that Alicent sucked off the old king every night when she would read to him, like she was his bed slave. When you hear those rumors, it's very easy to be like, oh yeah, Alicent probably fucked Daemon, probably because the king is a lame-o and Daemon is Damo, and he's a dragon knight, and he's good at jousting, and he's good at hawking, he's good at hunting, he's good at fucking, all the things that the king is not. So maybe Alicent wanted some Daemon dick, right? And Daemon is actually the father of Aemond, right? That was a theory that, like I said, it worked for the books, but it doesn't work for the TV show because Alicent is very much a goody two-shoes. She totally, according to Emily Carey, she totally was in love with Kristen Cole at one point. I don't know how that'll affect the story. That's probably just something that she put in her head as reasoning as to why the character's motivation and what the character's motivation is in the scene. But like, I don't know. Do you all, let me know in the chat, do you think for the books, is it still a valid book theory? Do you like that? Let me know. First time finding your channel. Welcome, Andrew. Thank you. Dope. So the algorithm is not pooping on me. North Must Remember said, what would you think if Viserys instituted a rule of two once he named Ray's heir, which would have minimized a destructive civil war? What do you mean? A rule of two? Like the Sith rule of two? Like there can only be two kind of thing. So like two heirs, an heir and a spare? Problem with that is like that would probably create a civil war even worse, because like Aegon would then have a legitimate claim. Is that what you mean by rule of two, or do you mean like marrying two wives? Because like a lot of them tried to do that. A lot of them. Well, actually, no, it's not true. That's a lie. That's something that is perpetuated online in comments where people say like, it's actually really common for Targaryens and Valyrians to marry two wives. No, that's actually not that common. That was pretty rare when Aegon did it. The only reason why he did it is because he married He married Rhaenys for love, and he married Visenya for duty, because Visenya is his oldest sister, and technically he would have been betrothed to her because she was born first. She's older than him. Visenya is the oldest. But that's why he did that. He didn't want to piss Visenya off, but he was ultimately in love with his little sister, Rhaenys. God, the Targaryens, fucking Jesus, dude. They just love, I like the way I look. I want something that looks just like me. What do you mean by that? Rule of two. Let me know. 2 wives or the Sith rule of 2? There can only be 2. Because if you have 2 heirs, like an heir and a spare kind of situation, that's going to make a civil war even more. Kelsey says a 9, a 7 for the, what do you give the episode? I give it an 8, and it'll probably go up or down depending on how this Laenor plot works out. He has to die in the book. What happens with Adam of Hall and Corlys Velaryon and the infidelity and him not bringing them forward with his wife, all of that has to happen, and Sea Smoke is quintessential to that. Yeah, you could switch out the dragon, but it's just not as, it's, you know, it's a slippery slope when you change. So, like I said, I give it an 8. That will change depending on how if the Laenor plot works out well, then I'll change my personal. Doesn't mean shit. It's only my opinion. Everybody has them. They're like assholes. From an 8 to like a 10, but that, like I said, doesn't matter. Laura Strada says, hello, I forgot this was live. I just finished watching Aegon flying for the 3rd time. Hi from Los Angeles. Hello, Laura. LA, nice. You guys still have warm weather out there. It's cold as balls outside here, which is nuts because it was like 75 last week. Yeah. Aemond flying Vhagar. My favorite scene of the show, next to Daemon fighting all those dudes, which I'm a sucker for badass fight scenes. Like The Witcher, like how he becomes the Butcher of Kaer Morhen, right? Is that? No, the Butcher of Blaviken. That scene was bad. I've never seen a fight scene that good, right? If Henry Cavill plays Cregan Stark, they better give Cregan Stark a fucking fight scene with his Uncle Bernard, because technically in the books, Cregan Stark right now is known as the Young Wolf, and his Uncle Bernard is ruling as his the person in charge, right, until he becomes of age. But then when he becomes of age, he doesn't want to give up the reins of power. So Bernard has to basically be punished by Cregan. Like, that has to happen in the show, or at least referenced. And that would be badass if Henry Cavill was playing Cregan Stark. Wink, wink. Totally can afford it in next year's budget. The show is the best show of all time. It's quickly surpassing Game of Thrones. It's getting 29 million people watching it per episode. Game of Thrones averaged like 9 million. I found that out from, well, I knew the show was getting a bunch of viewers, but I saw that in Greg Yante's post, who's a director for the show. I follow him on Instagram. Go follow me on Sir_Hunts_reviews. But yeah, that was a wild tangent. I don't know if I'll be able to come back from that one. What was I? This comment triggered it, right? Well, hopefully I made my points. Thank you for leaving that comment, Laura. I know you just joined me over on Patreon as well, so thank you for joining me there as well. All right. Daniel Pizzini says, Laenor getting murked by Daemon. What's that? I think I need to quit highlighting random comments. I'm gonna highlight people that are asking me something, because y'all are, that's awesome that y'all are talking amongst yourself, but I keep like eavesdropping on people's conversation and highlighting, and I'm like stuck out of context, like what? All right. Andrew Drow says people are soft and these changes are just dumb. Okay, so I think you're talking in general to me. I don't think you're referring to someone in the chat. I mean, I don't like the changes either. I'm not going to flat out just say they're dumb. That's not very nuanced. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm not going to, I don't know why you're saying people are soft. But, like, yes, that change, Alicent cutting Rhaenyra, that was stupid. Because, like, you can't do that. And, like, yeah, there's precedent because, like, she's the daughter of the highest house in the land, House Hightower. Oh, they just smoke all day. No, I'm just kidding. The richest, most powerful house in the land. underneath the Velaryons, underneath the Targaryens. But that's the king's daughter. That's the king's heir. That's the princess of Dragonstone. You know what happened? Okay, all right. Hold up. That's why this is live. Joffrey was the Prince of Dragonstone, next in line from King Robert. Joffrey was mauled by a direwolf. Mauled by a direwolf in a river after getting drunk with Sansa all day. I'm talking about what happened in the books, not the TV show. And guess what happened? Lady got killed. Technically, Nymeria was supposed to get killed, but Lady got killed. So it's not unprecedented for someone to strike a princess of Dragonstone. You know what? I take it back. I am not even mad that happened writing-wise. Now I'm just mad at the character, the make-believe person, Alicent, for being such a cunt. But it actually does make a little bit more sense now. Joffrey was mauled by a direwolf. King Robert would it says a lot about who the king is. That's exactly. Robert didn't even want Lady to die. He was just like, dude, kids are being kids. Get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? Like, he was just ready to go drink. He didn't give a shit. He's like, I know my son Joffrey's a prick, dude. I know he probably did something. But then ultimately, he's married to Cersei, who's a Lannister. And Robert often tells Ned, like, dude, I don't know if you've ever slept with a Lannister, but you don't want to sort of betray them, kind of, right? That's when he says, all right, fine, kill the wolf. So I guess there is some precedent for it. Let me know in the chat. Am I fanboying too hard for the show by covering up some writing mistakes, or does that actually make more sense now? And I just kind of forgot because I haven't watched Game of Thrones. And the 9 times I've seen it, that kind of just skipped my brain. I mean, that happens in the books too, but it's just the way it happened on the TV show. It's like the king is right there. Like, if Joffrey got mauled in front of Robert, well, Robert probably would have laughed. Robert Baratheon probably would have been like, oh, hey, watch out for the wolf, boy. Robert was just that dude. So, yeah. I actually feel a weight lifted off my shoulders because that was one of those things that would be like a ripple effect where, like, you question the logic of the show and it makes the writing choices seem bad. But no, it's totally, it says a lot about Viserys, and it's in theme in the sense that Joffrey, who's the Prince of Dragonstone, was maimed, and the result of that was Lady being killed, but ultimately Robert didn't really want to do anything. Aemond lost his eye, but it was a fight. And nothing should have been done because what was already done was done. He stole their mother's dragon, and then Lucerys took his eye. I'm kind of disappointed that it wasn't the cat's paw dagger. I thought for sure he was somehow going to get that knife into his possession and then use it to take out Aemon's eye, but didn't happen with that. The cat's paw dagger instead was used to strike Rhaenyra. Which is honestly, that's fair payment. You cut the princess, your son lost an eye. The princess didn't take your son's eye, her son did. So you cut her directly and you weren't scorned by her except for your son was. So, all right. Yeah. What do y'all think? Let me know in the chat. Does that make sense? Did I just save the writers of this show? No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. It's a joke. Oh, shit. Super chat from the Bio Explorer. Thank you for that, girl. They said, what about Helena's little poem about spiders and dragons? She says, as they crawl. I could pull it up right now, but I don't know the timestamp for the episode. I noticed that. I didn't know that she mentioned dragons. I know she was talking about spiders because she's having it crawl in the shell. And thank you for the super chat, by the way. She's having it crawl in the shell, and it's poisonous? Is the spider poisonous? Because if the spider's poisonous and she's handling it, I was going to go back and rewatch that scene, but I started laughing because right after that, Aegon goes, she's fucking dumb. Like, Aegon says she's stupid. I started dying laughing because it's like, that's not true. Obviously, she's not stupid. She's one of the most special Targaryens ever, right next to Daenerys the Dreamer. But like, that was really funny. He's like, dude, I gotta marry this bitch is over here playing with spiders. you see what I have to? You see what I have to deal with? Yo, Aegon is the man, dude. Oh my god, Titanic, bro, you fucking killed it. You jerking her off in the window, calling her sister stupid. He's genuinely the comedic relief. And then like he's getting drunk the whole episode, and he's like passed out on the railing, but he's like 14. And then also he's like torturing the fucking servant lady by just drinking all the cups while making her stand there, like hold it, like, hey, don't go anywhere. And then also when Lane is getting lowered into the water, he's like, this is taking a long time. Which is kind of funny because I was honestly feeling that too. Like, I love the Valyrian, but it depends on who's speaking it. And the dude who looks like Idris Elba, whose name is escaping me right now. I know it's Vaemond Velaryon. I know it's his character. I know it's his character's name, but the actor looks similar to Idris Elba. That was really long. It was like a minute and a half, and he's like, Zeldrizotti Bizdari. Like, you know, all this different Valyrian, and Aegon's like, does what some of us are probably thinking, which is like, like rolls his eye. And then Daemon laughs. Like, that was, why did you laugh? I think it was because he said our blood runs thick, and like, it's very clear that Rhaenyra's kids are not from House Velaryon. So I guess Daemon was laughing at the fact that yes, their blood does run thick because they're stupid for not figuring that out. I don't know. Thank you for that super chat, BioExplorer. Oh yeah, she has the sight. She knew that Aemond was going to have to close an eye to gain a dragon. I know you saw my video on that because I remember reading your comments on that. Where I mentioned how she's got the sight, just like how I thought Viserys would continue to have dragon dreams, but it seems like he had them and he tries to gain them again, or like he's only experienced them a few times from what I think. And I think Helena, the power in her is more concentrated. It's a version of green seeing. So the Starks, it's actually really funny because it's part of why the Valyrians, you should not look at your future. Nothing good comes from it. We learned that from Maester Luwin in Game of Thrones when he's talking to Breanne. It's like nothing comes from. Is it Maester Luwin? I don't even know anymore. Someone might have actually said that to Daenerys. Jorah Mormont says that to Daenerys when she's talking about the dreams she gets from. No. Wow, I can't remember that. But anyway, it's besides the point, right? So Daenerys has the dreams in the books, right? And she kind of, we assume she had them on the TV show. The spider is that, I'll have to rewatch the scene, but from what I can give you for right now, only watching it that one time and then just dying, laughing my dick off. Excuse my language if y'all watching don't like it, but also we watch a show where like brothers and sisters are literally fucking each other. So like kind of like comes with the territory kind of thing. Also, there's cursing in the Song of Ice and Fire books. They say more curse words in the first iteration of the show in Game of Thrones than I've ever said in all of my 890 YouTube videos. So, but anyway, what I can give you right now is that it may potentially, and this is off the top of the dome because like I said, I only saw that scene one time. A spider setting a trap. Cole and Alicent kind of talked about that. Like Cole said, a fly sucking, a spider sucking the honey dry, right? So it's kind of like she's foreshadowing either Alicent and Cole setting traps, right? Or Alicent and Sir Otto talking about we're going to continue making Aegon ready to rule and that setting trap, but most likely Laenor, the trap they set with faking his death. That may eventually backstab him. Like, I don't know why they would do, maybe just to be different from the books to keep everybody on their toes, but maybe they allow him to live for a few more years and then ultimately Carl Corey kills him for money or something. And then that frees up his dragon. the argument that I think they may try to make, and that's that the dragon thinks he's dead, won't work because the dragon has a connection with his rider. And maybe something happens where Sea Smoke, I don't know, basically delivers the dialogue that Laenor dies because she lets out Sea Smoke lets out a I don't know. It's too. That's all I can really give you right now. It's one of those three things. The spiders referencing Cole in Alicent setting a trap. Larys is another potential one. Like he's setting up a trap for Alicent. We know that he ends up, spoiler alert. I'll say a spoiler alert for this one because this is a really big one, right? 3, 2, you can't skip ahead because this is live. If you are that concerned with major spoilers, though, don't watch something that's called book analysis because that's in the thumbnail. And that's the best warning I can give everyone aside from changing changing my nano to spoilers. No, change my YouTube channel to something with just all of my videos are spoilers, which I actually have. My podcast is coming out. Well, it's already up on my Patreon. It's called Leaks and Lore, which I thought was really creative. I say those phrases a lot in my videos. But anyway, that was a big spoiler warning. Larys poisons Aegon too. So why is he working with his mother? What the fuck is the motivation behind this guy Larys too? He's more of a riddle to me than Daemon. I'm trying to figure out Daemon's character more so like it's my fault for learning who he is in the book so well and then expecting to see that translated on the screen literally word for word. That's not what's happening. He's way more complex and like none of us really know his motivation except for the writers because they kind of know where they're going with his character, right? But yeah, my brain just fizzled out. I need to drink some more soda. Larry's potentially is the spider that Helena is trying to warn them of. I'll have to rewatch that scene. Give me some more. I'll give you that really good answer for that. Yes. What was can anybody type? I'm sure maybe you all can go watch the scene real quick and type in the chat and tell me the dialogue, and then I can read that, and then I can probably formulate something better for it. That was treason of the highest form. Yeah. Do you have kids? If you have kids, that's one thing that you learn as a parent. You might think that and you might talk with other people about it, but you definitely don't say that to a fucking parent. Like that's one thing. It's like that probably would have made, like if somebody had came in and said, man, y'all really need to get y'all's kids under control. That person probably would have lost their head immediately. New Yorker in MA says, I love Astoria. No, I'm just kidding. She just helps Alicent act even more entitled than she already believes she is. Yes. It all, like I said, it all relates to who the king is because certain things are allowed when you're the king. And that's one thing you have to, that's one thing that you can only learn from reading the books because we've only seen King Robert, then we saw Joffrey, right? You saw what Joffrey allowed to happen in his court, basically whatever he wanted, right? And then we saw Tommen and Cersei, right? So, okay, that's a pretty good chunk of rulers. But when you realize all of the other Targaryen kings that sat the throne, all the ones that we know about, at least, like basically the entire first half of Fire and Blood, and then also pretty good chunk of World of Ice and Fire, and then also references all throughout the main series. So the main series of books, you have Game of Thrones, Clash of Kings, Storm of Swords, and then Feast for Crows and the Dance of Dragons, then the Winds of Winter and the Dream of Spring. Those 7 books, okay, so Winds of Winter and Dream of Spring aren't out yet, but those 5 books, Game of Thrones, Clash of Kings, Storm of Swords, Feast for Crows, and the Dance of Dragons, those 5 books have a lot of references to all the other Targaryen kings and how shitty or how good of a ruler they was. So when you take all of that into consideration, yeah, it's so okay. Aegon the Fourth, Aegon the Horth is what I call him. This guy was such a bastard. One of the worst things he did was legitimize all of his bastard children on his deathbed. So his successor, Daeron, had to pay taxes called the bastard tax to all of these individuals to keep them happy. But that's besides the point. This dude, Aegon the Horth, would allow people positions in his court if they let him sleep with their daughter. Like he would literally be like, that's your daughter, bro? Hand to the king. Nice to meet you. Hand to the king. Like, he would hand out titles he would take from one family and give to another family willy-nilly. Like, the Bracken's teats were stolen from House Bracken and given to House Blackwood because he liked Betha better. He's like, yo, this lady looks better. I'm taking something that I just gave to her and I'm giving it to these people. Like, yeah, this guy was worse than the Mad King. Like Daenerys' father, this guy was arguably worse than him because they're still feeling the effects of this king, right? In the main story, and he dies like 100 years before that, right? Yeah, about there. We're about there. About 80 to 100 years before there. And he's still affecting it. Still affecting it. There's these things called the Blackfire Rebellions that he caused by his bastards, right? Obviously, you could say it's indirect, but it doesn't matter. The kingdom is still feeling the effects from that. So Alicent, getting way back on track here, can totally cut the Princess of Dragonstone and get away with it. The first 20 minutes of this live stream, though, I'll leave a warning down in the comment section saying like, yo, actually, no, it does make sense. Skip to this point. So if somebody watching this right now could remember this timestamp. I think it's at 105:40. Is Helaena nuts? No, she has dragon dreams. And anybody, so let me explain that. Anybody who has dragon dreams are melancholic as hell. Just like you would be if you could see the future. So like I used to watch Charmed and Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel and Smallville and like all of the amazing shows that came out in the early 2000s, right? And there would always be someone who had clairvoyance, and that means they can see the future. And that would usually work different ways, but ultimately that power was very stressful for the person. Like Cordelia in Angel had the ability passed to her from this demon dude that ended up dying. And when she got the ability, it overwhelmed her. She would get migraines all the time. She would just be, okay, this is a make-believe person. But I'm just saying, this is a version of it. So it's going to relate to A Song of Ice and Fire. So Cordelia would be getting these like empathic moments and they would just lay her out. And she'd be like, and then she would, she would suffer greatly from having that ability. So any Targaryen that has the similar ability, the ability to see the future, but ultimately have it so misleading and they interpret them the wrong way most of the time, it makes them melancholic. Rhaegar, Jon Snow's father, was a very sad dude and didn't even like fighting with swords and was like not a big fan of riding horses. Like obviously there was no dragons in his days, but he was the Prince of Dragonstone, and he was just this sad dude. And then one day he read in a book that he was supposed to become a warrior and that from, his seed would be ice and fire. So that completely changes him around. And it doesn't directly say it, but in my opinion, the reason why he was like that is because he had dragon dreams. He probably had these prophetic dreams, which made him a reader. And then ultimately, when he started getting answers through looking through books and through looking through text, he figured out what he was supposed to do. And then also, there's this other dude in the Duncan Egg books who has Daeron the Drunken, who has dragon dreams, and he just drinks all the time because these dragon dreams are so intense. It just makes him like not want to experience life sober. So he like drinks all the time. And like to answer your question, is Helaena nuts? No, she has dragon dreams. So she's just uttering this what seems like nonsense to most people. She's not crazy. She's not crazy. She just can see stuff. And then also, I think, and I've said this like almost every video now, but I'll say it again because why not? What happened at the tragedy at Summerhall is Aegon the Fifth or Aegon the Unlikely, he ended up getting dragon dreams, and that like he became obsessed with trying to bring back dragons into the world for a genuine reason, because during his time, House Targaryen hadn't had dragons for a while, and they lost all their respect and all their power. And there's war afoot everywhere in the kingdom. And one thing that would unite everyone, just like it did the first time around, dragons. So Aegon the Fifth becomes obsessed with trying to bring back dragons, and this hasn't actually been written yet. George hasn't actually written this yet, but we're supposed to be getting a Duncan Egg show, so hopefully, this is heavily assumed because we do find out how he dies, and he dies at the tragedy at Summerhall, and there was basically this big fire at this Targaryen castle called Summerhall that they would use as a summer home. So a bunch of Targaryens died. Aegon the Fifth. And then, everybody that was close to him in his court, some of his children, Sir Duncan the Tall, who is related to Brienne of Tarth on the main show through descendancy. Basically, I think what happens there, and a lot of other people think what happens there, is he gets dragon dreams. He sees this part. I think is truly mine because I hadn't seen it anywhere. I think he sees Daenerys walking out of the funeral pile with dragons. Khal Drogo's funeral pile. Remember, Daenerys unknowingly commits a blood sacrifice, and then she brings back dragons into the world. Aegon V saw a super corrupted version of that, and that made him be like, I have to kill my family to bring back dragons, because he saw Daenerys in pain, and he felt her emotion that she had just lost someone. So he's like, oh, I didn't actually see me burning them, but I know that emotion that I felt through seeing the eyes of Daenerys in the future. I know that I just lost someone, so I better burn all these people around me so that way I can walk out of the fire with dragons. And like, I may have lost all of these people, but like, I still have dragons, and I'll still be able to take over and unite Westeros for that threat. So now that we know context of like, for the TV show, Aegon knew about the threat from up north. Maybe that was why Aegon V decided to do what he did, in that, well, hey, it's worth it. I got to save the world. If I kill these people, I'll save the world and bring back dragons and stop all these wars and stuff kind of thing. So yeah. Is Helena nuts? No. She has dragon dreams, and hopefully we'll get to see her, or through her dialogue, we'll get to see, or we'll get to hear some of the things that she's seen, and maybe we'll even get to see them. I don't know. Who did burn in that fireplace? The dude whose Daemon neck, the guy that Daemon went behind on the stairs and was like, that guy. That's why Daemon killed him. And we've been seeing him, or at least I've been talking about him in a lot of my recent videos, because, well, that was kind of crazy. Daemon broke this dude's neck, and you could see it in the clip from the trailer from like before the show even started. Or no, maybe it was in the weeks ahead. So after the first episode, they released this trailer. And in that trailer, we get a clip of Daemon breaking that dude's neck. And like I'm saying, myself and every person who's seen that clip on the internet is trying to figure out what the hell it's in relation to. And it's all in faking Laenor's death. So that's the dude who's burned in the fireplace. The guy who's Daemon snaps his neck on the stairs. And he's wearing House of Velaryon's colors. So that's even better, because, that's the only part that they could see, whereas the bottom half that wasn't burned by the fireplace. Here's the thing, though. Now that they probably know Corey did it, since there's witnesses, right? Wouldn't the bounty that's put on Corey, wouldn't that be insane? And like, wherever they go to, they'll find out, because eventually Laenor's hair is going to grow back. But actually, I like that he shaved his head, because that's what Egg did. The guy that I was just talking about, who killed all his family, he goes traveling around the Seven Kingdoms and is a squire to Sir Duncan the Tall. And that's really good for him, because Targaryens are cunts usually. So this little boy goes around and is very much a small folk king, which is part of the reasons why a lot of people think the Maesters wanted to kill him, is because not only would this dude have brought back dragons, but also he had the love of the common people on his side. And that's very dangerous with a Targaryen king. He could overthrow things like the Citadel, and maybe the High Septon decides that they don't like certain policy. It's just it's a big tangled mess. So that's who burned in the fireplace. Was that the question that I was answering? Oh man. Yes, it is an unbelievable episode. Now that I've thought out, like, okay, that wasn't that dumb of a writing choice. No, there's precedence for it. Like, Joffrey got mauled by a direwolf, and the only thing that happened is the direwolf died. Really? Like, obviously, you could argue Joffrey got back at the Starks when he became king, but ultimately, that's a very similar thing that happened to Rhaenyra tonight. She got cut by... But the more you think about it, the more you're like, no. She stole the knife from the king. The king kept saying, stop it. Sit down, Alicent. Quiet, Alicent. Don't do it, Alicent. And then she was just like, nah, I'm going to do it. But I'm going to still leave it at an 8, because I need to rewatch it. I need to do my my thorough research and investigation into the episode, which means, watching it twice, taking more notes than I already did. That's part of the reason why my video was late. So last Monday, I usually release it by 3 a.m, my episode breakdown in a few hours from now. But my internet went out because we had a power outage. So I was late uploading the video, but I actually liked having more time to work on it. And I think that video shows because it's a better breakdown. So I think it may be safe to say this, but are you guys okay with waiting until like between noon and 3 tomorrow for my video to come out? So that way I can work on it a little bit tonight and then bang it out the rest of the time in the morning and sleep on this. And I'm going to watch it probably at least one more time before I go to bed tonight, and then watch it while I'm making my video tomorrow, and then watch it again ultimately. Yeah. So are you guys okay with waiting for that? I used to, I would, yeah. So I don't know. Just let me know. It's also way less stressful in that, I don't need to stay up until 5 a.m. Rafael Luna says, holy shit, I just finished the episode. So Rhaenyra wasn't killed. The whole time I was thinking they were evil for killing him, and all of a sudden it was set up and let him escape. Hell yeah. I think the problem with, at least in my opinion, right? The problem with his death being like a fake out is that it does genuinely leave a plot hole of like what's going to happen with this Adam of Hull storyline. You could argue that they could give him a different dragon, but then it doesn't have as much impact as he's riding his supposed dad's dragon. And then also he gets accused of being a traitor, but then does the most loyal thing ever. So his body is held at maybe Moat Cailin, Adam of Hull. I think it's held in Moat Cailin. Or maybe with the Brackens or the Blackwoods. It's held somewhere for like 2 years. And then afterwards, Alon Oakenfist is able to retrieve his brother Adam's body. And then he puts it in the tomb at High Tide or Driftmark, or as we saw, in a sarcophagus, and then pushed into the ocean. And then guess what he inscribes on his sarcophagus? One word. Bitch ass nigga. No, I'm just kidding. Loyal. Loyal, because he was loyal, because he wasn't a traitor. Because guess what? Rhaenyra goes crazy on you. Crazy on you. By the end of this series, holy shizer. Rhaenyra starts questioning everybody near her. She pulls a Cersei from the books. She will make me more mad than I was at Alicent for cutting her. Like, look, I'm a big fan of Rhaenyra, right? But that's not why I was mad at Alicent for cutting her. I'm mad because you can't. It's the title. Respect the position. You're the queen consort. That's not your daughter. You can't cut her, right? Like, oh man, I don't know. You didn't see Sunfire. How can I show you Sunfire? I'm sure someone's uploaded an internet picture by now to the internet. It is in the episode. When you arrive, is in the background. No one's got it. Yeah, I bet you it's up on Twitter, but I don't know if that's a mosh pit right now. I'd have to be crazy to pull it up on Twitter. But yes, you did. Right as everyone arrives, right as you see the dragons arriving, and they land on that rock crevice, and we see all the different dragons. So we see Vhagar, we see Syrax, because we followed Syrax to that location, and Syrax lands. Look right off up in the top, right. You'll see it. It's like a golden bar on the screen. Amazing, gorgeous, beautiful dragon. Please, someone drop me a link in the chat right now if you have a picture so I can share it. Someone find a picture on the internet, please. I don't know if you could. YouTube needs to make us be able to post pictures in the chat, because that would be dope. That would be really cool. Okay, so Daemon is Prince Consort, very much like how Alicent is the Queen Consort. It's like Prince Charles, the guy that died right before the Queen, her husband. He wasn't the king, right? The reason being is because in the line of succession, Rhaenyra is the one who's chosen to wear the crown and rule. So the person who marries her technically is not the one who's chosen in that line of succession. So they have a kind of like a preface, like, yeah, I'm the little king kind of thing. Like, I'm the king consort. I'm the consort to the queen, but I am a king, but I'm a consort to her kind of thing. And I don't know the literary definition right now. Like, I probably should have looked it up before, but like, so like Daemon isn't just king because when Rhaenyra had the realm pledged to her, they pledged fealty to her. So she's the one. It's the same thing that happened with the Queen of England. Like, her dad was the king, and then he died, and then he didn't have any other sons, so she took over. So anybody that marries her is not going to steal her title from her. They're going to become like a consort and just a person that associates themselves with them, right? They can't usurp the throne just for marrying them, kind of thing. So it's like a precautionary measure to say, hey, this person's not, they won't be remembered in history as King whoever the third, right? They're going to be King Consort Philip or King Consort old wrinkly guy with fat hands. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. No disrespect to the English royalty, but holy crap, do the king's hands look concerning. More concerning than King Viserys' fingers in House of the Dragon. Bro, he's got, that is heart disease. Those fingers look like boiled Vienna sausages. And I love Vienna sausages. I used to eat them as a kid. They're delicious. I like the barbecue ones. What is that? That you should have the best doctors in the world. But yes, so yes, hopefully that explained your question. What's up, Destiny? Laughing at, yes. Hopefully I've been funny tonight. I think I'm pretty funny. People tell me I'm funny. Helena. What about her? Oh, did somebody get the link for Sunfire? I have it, and you're gonna see it if you watch my video. Oh shit. Super chat. Hot take. Laenor is an ancestor of Grey Worm. Did y'all see? Thank you for that super chat, Austin Malinowski. Appreciate it, bro. You rock! Laenor is an ancestor of Grey Worm. Okay, so Grey Worm, like, I know you're joking. They do look similar. But Grey Worm, the actor, just got the role of playing the vampire Lestat in Interview with a Vampire. That show kind of looked interesting. I might have to watch that. But yeah, y'all should watch that. No, Laenor is not an ancestor of Grey Worm. Grey Worm is, so in the books, just to be technical, and I know you're not serious. Thank you for the super chat. I'm just going to answer the question anyway. Grey Worm or Turbo Nargonagru. That's I just butchered that, but that's how you say his name in Valyrian. Turbo Nargonagru. Fuck. What was the original founding of the Unsullied? Were they the Lockstep Legions of Geese? No. Where are they from, though? Where are they from, Volantis? Lockstep Legion of Geese. Astapor. Yes. So, all right. So, I don't know what the hell they made his origin story on the TV show. So, the Unsullied are from Astapor. Grey Worm is from Astapor. They're slaves. They're enslaved. So he may have initially been from somewhere else, but he's not descended from Laenor. Thank you for that super chat. But yeah, Turbo Nargonagru, he's from I swear to God, that's how you say his name. Turbo Nargonagru. He's yeah. He's not related to Laenor. He does look similar to the actor. There's this one dude who follows me for a long time since I first started my YouTube channel. He lives in the UK and he's from Dominican Republic. That I remember. Can't remember his username. It's changed a few times, but that guy looks exactly like Grey Worm. And it's really funny because when he first started following me, I saw the profile picture and I was like, holy shit, Grey Worm's following me. The dude from the show is following. And then I saw his picture blown up on Facebook and I was like, no, that's not the guy, but he does look just like him. Yeah, Turbo Nargonagru. Looks like Obama. I don't think he looks like Obama. Obama looks a little bit older now. Maybe when Obama was younger, I see some similarities there. I'm not clicking on that comment, Austin. He's a gray worm, gay worm, coincidence. What? Nobody misses Sansa from John Haymaker. Book Sansa. I told you this. I don't know if I have said it often enough for people that watch me to know this, but I feel like a butthole for making those videos on Sansa and how much she sucks. And yes, they're funny, and yes, they're still true for some of the choices her character made. But in the books, she's a little girl and she gets beaten. So George was like, when he's writing Sansa, he's like, okay, she fucked up, right? She definitely sent the message, which ultimately, she didn't send the message. She came in, told Cersei that her dad was planning on leaving King's Landing. So after that, Cersei figures out in a Game of Thrones, the first Song of Ice and Fire book, she figures out, oh, okay, Ned's planning all this shit. And then also Ned threatens her in the Godswood. Ned warns her, he thinks. She, intentionally or not, gets her dad killed. And then she writes a fucking letter and says, look, I'm with them. They're treating me fair. Please come down and bend the knee, right? And then Arya finds the letter, and then they use it as a Littlefinger plot on the show in season 7. Sansa in the books, she just, after that, okay, so like, yeah, that's a really stupid decision. It's like, okay, yeah, every POV that she's in, for the most part, in Game of Thrones, is kind of annoying, but like I was saying, George, when he was writing her POV, he's like, how can I get her back? And he does. She gets the shit beat out of her. She gets hit, like, Joffrey is, okay, so Joffrey's pretty sick and twisted on the TV show. They did a pretty good job with the character. That translation is perfect. Really perfect. But the way that Sansa loves Joffrey and how excited she is for the idea of becoming a princess, eventually queen, and to be saved away from her boring-ass northern, cold, dreary climate, right, to be rescued from her life, Joffrey just shows up one day, and then she finds out she's going to marry him. So Joffrey's very much her knight in shining armor. And actually, Joffrey in the books looks exactly like Cersei in Jaime. And no offense to the actor who plays Joffrey on the TV show, but he kind of looks like he'd be a butthole, right? To say that nicely. The dude does an amazing job acting, right? But he looks like he'd be a butthole. Joffrey in the books is much more of a Prince Charming, right? So initially when Sansa first meets him, she's like, his lips are very sensual, right? And she's like, his hair is perfect. I love the way he laughs. His voice makes me giggle, right? And then she sees his first bit of anger after he's bitten by Nymeria, Arya's direwolf, and he's literally like, ah, you bitch, get away from me, don't touch me, right? And she sees that, and then she's like, okay, this dude is not who I thought he was. But then she still sticks to him, right? So then you realize, oh, okay, this is George's version of what he thinks it's like for a little girl to be in the medieval times and to be whisked away with all the fantasy and fancy of that time period. And guess what? In my opinion, being a dude, right, with a dick, right, I think he did a pretty good job. I don't know what women think because I'm not a woman's, right? But I think me as a man's, I think he did a pretty good job. So now after reading her POV 6 times and working through my 7th reread, I kind of slogged out at the end of Game of Thrones, just the most recent time. But that's because the TV show came on and I've been distracted with doing World of Ice and Fire and Fire and Blood for these live streams and for my videos. So, fuck Sansa. Yeah, so when you realize that, you realize, okay, no, this is just a little girl. And like, I have a daughter now, and I know it's very cliche, but no, it's true. Like, I don't want her to have any kind of different experience because she's a woman than my son. You know what I mean? So I have both. So I like with my son, we bond. I don't want to talk about my kids, not on live stream. Anyway, Sansa's not that bad in the book. Sansa on the TV show, Cersei Turner on the TV shows, at times, like, she even admits that her acting in the beginning was very cringy, right? So, but yeah, my opinion on Sansa has changed drastically. through the years. But yeah, I'm embarrassed about those videos I made, but I'm not going to take them down because that's something that I made. That's how I felt at that time. Everybody's allowed to change their mind. Oh shit. Got a super chat. Another one from the north. Must remember, make sure you go subscribe to my dude here on YouTube. Honest question. If Cersei, he says, if Cersei had drawn Robert's dagger and stabbed Arya through the arm in retribution, how would Bobby B respond? That would have been, he can't understand. Robert hates her. He hates her. That would have been his out. He would have been like, all right, well, look, I just made him the hated king. We're making our way to King's Landing. I'll see you when we get down there. Like, he literally would have been like, all right, well, Cersei, you got to, like, I don't know. That's a really good question. It's not the same, though, because you said Robert's dagger and stabbed Arya through the arm. It would have to be if Arya grabbed Ned's dagger and stabbed Joffrey through the arm. That would be the appropriate comparison, in my opinion. And if that happened, Robert probably would have punished Joffrey. That's just how badass Robert was. Like, he's kind of afraid of messing with the Lannisters, but like, his son is his son, and like, he hits Joffrey, so like, he's not afraid to. It's probably partly his fault for being such an absent dad for why Joffrey's such a little pooper, you know. Yeah. But I mean, if the way that you propose it happened, Robert would probably just laugh, because like, Cersei, I mean, he would probably try to stop Cersei from grabbing his dagger, right? But yeah, I don't know. I don't think he would have he would have told Ned, like, you got to watch out for these Lannisters. Like, he wouldn't have been able to discipline her. So I don't know. Thank you for that super chat. This is from Walks as Elk, and he or she or they says, we should see Sisterman, Skagosi, and Ibonese in the Corliss show. Well, I like this question because this is a Song of Ice and Fire. Sisterman, like from the place that Davos visits in a feast, like two twins, the two sisters stew or whatever. They have that soup there where they put two different types of crab and two different types of lemon or shellfish or something. That's not that interesting. But Skagos, on the other hand, there's people who are cannibals and they ride unicorns that are probably really just woolly rhinos, but they ride unicorns, and that's where Rickon is. Skagos is just north. It's like an island to the northeast of Winterfell, and it's basically like got a bunch of mysteries and rumors that surround it because no person of note of a POV in the main series has been there. But Davos is headed to Skagos right now, and he's saying, this commenter, or he or she or they, whatever, are saying that we'll see Skagosi because in Corliss's travels, he does travel north. He goes, I think he goes as far north as Ib and travels with the Ice Wolf, and then turns around because he's like, ain't nothing up there. It's just cold. That's one of the journeys. And that's when he had the ship, the Ice Wolf. So that was cool. Ibonese, those are the dwarves. Those are basically the dwarves of A Song of Ice and Fire. There's actual dwarves, right? But they're like, the Ibonese are basically Tolkien's dwarves. So the Ibonese themselves, the women's cannot mate with anybody other than the men's. And that's because they're basically infertile with anybody other than Ibonese men. If I'm not mistaken, there are characters that are part Ibonese, so Ibonese men can mate with other Westerosi and other, like, people, normal humans, but the women cannot mate with the men, I think. And that was an interesting thing to be added into the context of A World of Ice and Fire, because George is letting you know, oh, they tried to fuck the women of Ib, but it's not, the unions are, I think, whatever results in that union is like basically like what they call like a monster. You know what I mean? Like, it's a monstrosity. So it's not something that is pleasing to the eye and probably dies right away, right? But the men's, if I'm not mistaken, can mate with women from other societies, and there's no name for the planet. George never gave the world that this is set in a name, and that's because it's actually probably Earth. It's probably some version of Earth, but we'll never find that out. He'll never confirm that. He likes to leave stuff like that up in the air for the mysteries. We got another super chat from the Bio Explorer. And she says, Helena said, oh, you got the thing. Dope. Hands turned loom, spool of green, spool of black dragons of flesh. What the hell? She is insane. No wonder Aegon goes, she's an idiot. I had so much trouble reading that. Not the way you typed it. I know that's what she actually said, but that's just a crazy limerick. It doesn't even rhyme. I would have said, Helena, can we get some rhymesies if you're going to be doing these? All right, so let's break it down. Hands turn loom. Hey, a loom is like how you make clothes. It's a textile thing. I know that from the Assassin movie with Angelina Jolie. And the dude John McAvoy, and the dude he was Professor X, he had to stick his hand and grab the shuttlecock, but he couldn't because he wasn't fast enough. And then he got fast enough. And then I thought, as like a 17-year-old boy, or however I was like, dude, if I want to be an assassin, I probably would have to learn how to. I should start working at a textile industry so that way I can learn how to grab these shuttlecocks. Like when I was a kid, I would watch movies and I would literally try to act like the character. Like when I saw Blade 2, well, that's besides the point. When I saw, no, it was Blade 2, right? So I went to go see Blade 2 with my stepmom's brothers who were all very similar age to me, and we all picked different characters of who we wanted to be in the movie, and like we would just do that instead of play kickball or football or whatever, right? Like that's what we did when we saw movies where normal neighborhood kids would do that. Like my group of friends would do that. Anyway, hands turn loom. So a hand is turning a textile, making a shirt, spool of green, pledging for the greens, right? Declaration, Rhaenyra. So in the books, Alicent wears greens when we saw on the TV show, House Hightower declares war, and when they wear green. Also when the flame turns green. And then also Rhaenyra wears black and red. That's when they describe Rhaenyra's party as the blacks. So it then becomes the greens for Alicent's party and the blacks for Rhaenyra's party. And that's a really dumbed down version of explaining it. But we see in the trailer for episode 8, I see Rhaenyra wearing a black dress with like the things like this. It looks like it's kind of from Dune. It looks like it's a dress from Dune, right? The things are like up by, she's standing in front of the Iron Throne. I'm trying to remember because I watched it a while ago. At this point, it's been like I watched it like an hour ago. Anyway, spool of green, spool of black, greens versus the blacks. Dragons of flesh, weaving dragons of thread. Dragons of flesh are actual dragons. Dragons of thread. Calling the Targaryen banners to war. And that's just a rough breakdown. If you guys allow me, I'm going to, give myself an extended period of time to work on my breakdown. Thank you for that super chat. I'm a dragon of thread. It just immediately makes me think of like, because everything else is forming. Maybe it's just talking about making a tapestry. We all want to see what's in those tapestries. Helena wants to see what's in those tapestries. She's got the dragon dream, so she's a bit crazy. So she can't just come out and say it, but she's basically saying, I really want to know what's on those tapestries. People keep talking about these tapestries. Is it a spool of green? Is it a spool of black? Are there dragons of flesh? Are those dragons made out of thread? Right? That's what she wants to know. She thinks that the tapestry could potentially have human flesh on it. And that is my joke version breakdown of it. So I hope that was good, right? Thank you for that super chat. Maya Lovely says, Laenor having a bastard makes no sense, especially not after we learn on the show how he couldn't do his duty in sleeping with Rhaenyra. He actually did do his duty. We find that out. He sleeps with her twice. You can't, like, this, you can't have a baby when every time you have sex. This is not guaranteed. You know what I mean? Even if you bust inside every time, it's not going to happen. It's got to be the right time. he probably, as a Ute, right? So Adam, well, I mean, that's the point, right? So that's what the narrator tells you in Fire and Blood is like, it doesn't make sense for Rhaenyra, who hadn't showed no interest in girls, to have these bastard kids, and all of a sudden they need dragon seeds and then they come forward, right? No, that the book lets you know that didn't happen most likely, and that they're likely coreless as bastards. But you could argue that Rhaenyra, right, in his Ute, I mean, you dumb, I'm in a Ute, when he was at Hull or at Spicetown, was like, maybe I do like girls. Maybe he was like, he looked at boys and he was like, yeah, I like boys, but he just didn't want to admit that. And he's like, maybe I do like girls. And then he did it with a couple of girls, and then that resulted in some offspring. Because like we just said, it doesn't happen every single time. I'm not gonna say the last part. Y'all let me say the last part. You come inside. I'm not gonna. All right. I think Daemon's official title is Prince Consort. I think. I could be wrong though, but I think like in the Song of Ice and Fire, it's when he becomes king, it's King Consort. When Rhaenyra sits the throne, when she takes King's Landing in season 3, I think it'll happen in season 3, or probably actually no, it'll probably happen by the end of season 2. That's gonna be amazing. Everybody, you know what? How about Joe Rogan having the Torgo Nudo? Right, but it's way more fun to say Turbo Nagorno. You got to say it quick, right? Because that's how they say Valyrian. Like it's got to roll off your tongue. So when it rolls off your tongue, you say Turbo Nagorno. Want me to do it again? Turbo Nagorno. I'll do it again for you. Turbo Nagorno. One more time. Turbo Nagorno. Is that good? What? They are a whole bratwurst. What are y'all talking about? Wieners? These comments are from 20 minutes ago. Holy shit. Let me skip to the newest ones. I'm sorry, y'all. Sorry. Super chat from Walk says Elk. I started to skip, and then when I scrolled down, I was like, holy shit, there's like 5 super chats. Let me answer those and not be a dickhead. And then I'm gonna scroll to the bottom because I'm answering really old questions. So not only are you guys delayed from hearing what I'm saying, but I'm also delayed because I'm answering questions from 20 minutes ago. So you're probably like, hey, what the hell's going on? All right, so let's get the chat caught up. Thank you for the super chat. Walks is Elk. He says, do you think we will ever see Ibnis, Sothorios, Sisterman, Skagosi, ET, Jogos Nahai live action? Yes, and most of them in the Corliss show. The Jogos Nahai are basically like bald-pointed capmen Dothraki, except for they ride Zorsis. They ride Zorsis, which is really cool because the Zorsis are way sturdier than regular horses, and they're zebra horses. But George doesn't say that in World of Ice and Fire, but I'm not an idiot, and I know that Zorsis exist. They're one of my favorite animals, along with ligers. Sothorios, that's like Africa. Yeah, I mean, it's very easy to do that for the Nymeria show. It would be very easy. Matter of fact, she goes there. She goes there and they get weird diseases. The Sistermen, you keep saying that. Or not, are we not talking about the sister soup? I might have to cheat. I might need some help. Are the Sistermen some sort of weird primordial creature? Are these one of the primordial Song of Ice and Fire creatures? Are these Sistermen? Are they like rumored to be like the Squishers, like the people from Crack Claw Point who have like, rows of teeth and are kind of reptilian fish-like? Is that who the Sistermen are? Is that who you're talking about? And I'll have to skip 20 minutes into the future to get an answer from that. But the Jogos Nahai, that would be hard to see. Like you could argue, okay, so the Jogos Nahai are like this nomadic warrior. They're like I said, the Dothraki. A good way to picture them if you don't know who they are is to imagine the Dothraki. Then imagine the Dothraki shave their heads, have pointed heads, right? So they bind them and make them look like, like how certain Central American, South American cultures did. And I think they did that elsewhere around the world too, right? And they're also riding striped zebra horses, and they're short. They're really short. And they have like a sort of like a kind of like a modern idea, but also ancient Egypt did something like this. So they have like this culture where like women are allowed to play the role of like the warrior leader of the tribe, but they have to don the role of men and like wear men's mail and eat with men and sleep with men and like, you know, take on women as lovers kind of thing. And then they also allow women to play like the soothsayer role in the tribe, which would be like the prophet or whatever. They allow men to play that role as well. It's traditionally a woman, but when they do that, the men have to do the same thing. So they would have to wear and dress like the women in that culture who did that role kind of thing, which is really interesting. It's kind of like a thing that George took from like ancient Egyptian history. And I can't remember the exact context on that, but I know I did look it up one time. And I think it's something like Egyptian pharaohs. Like I saw something recently where an Egyptian pharaoh, I can't remember her name. Amenhotep? No. Damn, that's embarrassing. I've got too much information packed in my brain right now, but let me continue breaking down these Jogos Nahai. Also, I could be confusing the Jogos Nahai with the women of Kaya Kaya Naya who have iron rubies in their nipples. But I know I'm not, because they have iron rubies in their nipples. Are the sister men? I'm just going to look it up on my phone. Fuck it. It's the first time I've had to look up something for a Song of Ice and Fire in a while, so I'm not bragging or nothing, but you know. This is who I thought. They have... Okay, so yes, the popular stew. That's what I thought. It has like multiple different types of meats. Like I said, they worship the they threw dwarfs into the sea. That's extremely mean. They were all right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, like if the Jon Snow show, maybe they would go to the Three Sisters. I don't know. We didn't even see that on the TV show because Davos isn't on the journey to go get Rickon or go meet back up with Stannis after being like, you know, sent to do something. So thank you for that super chat. We got another super chat from the Northwest Remember, and he says rule of two, being only 2 dragon riders allowed. Rule of 2, being only 2 dragon riders, one dies, war over. Check for super chat from Laura E. All right. Hang on 1 second on that part. So this was in relating back to your other super chat, which is that this comment is from 1142. So the first super chat was in relation to what is rule of 2 meaning, and I had broken it up into 2 different choices. Only 2 dragon. I'm confused. Catch me up in the chat. Everybody repeat what the point that you're that you made on the last one, so I can actually answer this super chat. But then you told me to look for a super chat for Laura E, so appreciate that. Let me go look for that one. Do you really? That part just always stuck out to me. Like George, it's funny, very funny. I think I answered Laura's super chat. I remember answering one from her. Is it one that was there one before that I missed? If so, I'm sorry. I'm going to try to scan back for it right now. There we go. Thank you for that super chat, Laura. Sorry for that. Rhaenyra, she says Rhaenyra still is daddy's little girl. She worked it. Yeah. I like how she kind of forced Daemon to have sex with her. If you wanna be an equalist part, he's kind of he just lost his wife. He literally just buried his wife, and she's like, I don't give a shit, dude. We've been waiting to do this. She's like, you left me on the street of Silk, and I was really horny, and this dude Harwin who looked like a bitch ass Jon Snow. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, that's basically what she did. So yeah, I don't know if I was King Viserys. Thank you for that super chat, Lord. Is there any that makes me want to look? Is there any more that I missed? Okay, I remember answering this one from the Bio Explorer. So I know from that point I hadn't missed any. All right, cool. So I'm going to continue on answering random stuff from the chat, but I'm going to try to scroll down and get caught up so that I can read recent comments. It's my fault for answering the chat late, and then I get stuck on one question, answering it for 10 minutes, and then the chat, obviously, 20 more comments go up, and then I answer a few of those, and then more time goes by, and then... But I think people prefer thorough answers, right? Every time I start to go on a rant or something, everybody goes, we love those. We love tangents. Keep doing them. So that's why I always try to do them. Sisterman had webbed. Thank you for that. You don't have to keep sending super chats to get your question. I'm about to start answering regular questions in chat. Thank you for that. Although I'm saying you don't have to, but I fucking love it. So thank you for sending the super chat. I'm not going to act like I don't need some help. Sistermen have webbed hands and feet. The theory is that they and the Ironborn have common ancestors from the Thousand Isles. So yes, these are one of the primordial creatures that descended from the Deep Ones, which George has given us information on. Like, we know that they probably have something to do with the oily black stone, and we know that the Ironborn and how sick they are with their religion of the drowned god, right? And how they don't necessarily have any like weird features like that, right? But you know, there's probably a strong, I would say 90% chance that whatever god is, that created them. So like there's probably a race of people that mated with regular humans that gave them those traits, right? Whatever force that is, right? That's probably something real, because that goes all the way to the jungles of Sothorios and Ying and Liti, and something that happened, some kind of cataclysmic event happened over there, because there's parts of the cities that were parts of that city that were shut off, and the underground was blocked because there's these things called the Old Ones that probably are not nothing good, right? I'm pulling on too deep right now, so I'm trying to remember something interesting about the Deep Ones that I didn't just say. The Deep Ones. I mean, it's obvious. I actually just mentioned this in the video that I did yesterday from the Valyrian. I labeled it as a Laenor death switch out theory leaked video or whatever, but ultimately 15 minutes of that video is me talking about Valyria and lore stuff. So the reason why I did that is because if I had just made the video say, hey, this is a video of me talking about all the stuff that happens for the books in my neurotic, spazzy way, watch it. No one would have watched it. So I have to put it how I do for YouTube's algorithm, right? So then people are like, oh, this is something that's going to happen in the episode, which I ultimately did talk about that. And I even said, and then left a comment of where to skip to get to that part, right? But, so yeah, lore stuff, it's way more fun to talk about. And this question is pulling too much on me trying to figure out my stuff on that, because I packed my brain with all the stuff from Valyria and House of the Dragon and Fire and Blood, and the first part of World of Ice and Fire, which talks about the time before the First Men, and then ultimately what happens with Valyria and over what's going over on there in Essos. Not so much the Thousand Isles, and really give me information to pull from that I've read recently that I can answer this. But I mean, we would definitely have some kind of chance of seeing these people with web feet, or getting some kind of answers to that in the ET show. I think the ET show, or whatever show they want to do that focuses on that part of Essos, they'll have to do something different than dragons in introducing another god like that aside from R'hllor. And then, we kind of had the many-faced god of death in the main show, except for he just sort of fell off in the last season because Arya in the books would never be able to leave how she left with all of their secrets. That's the whole point. She abuses their secrets and their knowledge while she's there in Braavos, and she suffers from it. She goes fucking blind and then learns how to ward cats. So in the books, she's not just going to be able to bounce from the Faceless Men because she's friends with Jaqen H'ghar. Jaqen H'ghar is dead, and he never really existed to begin with. He was just a face that some random faceless dude was wearing, and she's not even sure that she's there with the kindly men right now, right? So there's a chance that we could see some kind of like other god brought in aside from a many-faced god in R'hllor and like the dragons and the Targaryens thinking of themselves as god, and that would be interesting. If you brought in the deep ones, which are, like the Thousand Isles and the people who created the sea stone chair and the black oily stone, that's part of several different monuments all over Westeros, right? And all over the world, actually. Like there's a bunch of different places that contain this weird oily black stone, and the properties of it are not really similar to anything else in the planet. So that's what makes it really more interesting. And George hasn't really written that much on it. He hasn't, you hear about it, it's referenced, right? But it's not like something solid. He hasn't given us someone like Melisandre may know some information on it. Hang on a second. That was my son. You all right? I gotta wrap this up. All right. Thank you for that super chat, man. Hopefully answer that question. Yes. Just like Valyrian steel, I agree. Lord Stark can for a day. That's what a lot of people say about the Hour of the Wolf in Cregan Stark because his visit is so short. Excuse me. Hopefully that was off mic and y'all didn't hear that. But what's even worse is that, if I'm not mistaken, when Cregan Stark comes over in his hand, are you talking about Ned or Cregan? Because Ned is his hand for not that long. You could call it a long day, right? But like just a few months, maybe like half a year. I'm not sure the exact timeline, but he dies in the first book, so not that long. And then he's made hand like within his first few chapters. Cregan. All right, I see it right there. So Cregan comes in late, and the reason why is because he keeps everyone in the north to sow the fields and harvest as much stuff as possible because winter's coming, and he knows that. And when he does show up, literally Rhaenyra's dead. Aegon's dead. And the war is pretty much over. So Aegon the Third, who's Rhaenyra and Daemon's child, is the one who's sitting the throne at that point. And he is his hand for a while, but ultimately resigns. And then I think he makes a Manderly. I can't remember which Manderly, but he makes a Manderly his hand for a while. And then he's dissed because as soon as Aegon becomes of age, I think the Manderly fellow does a pretty good job because the Stark Cregan's like, dude, I don't want to be down here. I got other stuff to do. Basically the same way that Ned is. He'd rather go home, right? And he leaves a Manderly fellow who's like, yeah, I'll do this. In a relation to House Manderly, Wyman is a big chonker as a main character for the books. He doesn't have a POV, but he's like currently getting into fights with of all people, House Frey, right? They're camped out at Winterfell waiting for Stannis to attack. But House Manderly worships the Merlin King, who's on their sigil, right? The Merlin King is on their sigil, and that is who the Driftwood throne was gifted to House Velaryon from. And that's who they returned Laena to. And I think I'm getting too sidetracked into, what the hell is this? I had to block that person. What was that? All right, well, that was a good sign. I got to get out of here. Not because this isn't fun, but literally, my girlfriend just told me, come help me with your son. So, all right. Thank you guys for watching. There's been a solid 200 people watching this whole time. And this is one of the longest live streams that I've done so far this season. So please do me a favor and slap a like on it. Like goal is going to be 420. Also, make sure to subscribe. Make sure you turn the notifications on. Almost at 100,000. I don't know how many subs we gained over this live stream, but next couple of weeks, I'm hoping before the end of the show, we can gain 100,000 subscribers. And that's to literally fight the shadow ban. I've explained it a bunch of times. Thank you for watching. Along that, Salrizas was die. Ixos daor. A dragon is not a slave.